Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for the India Food Nutrition Summit 2021. That was a wonderful presentation by Dr. Murphy and Anshul Kumar from Kerry Applied Health and Nutrition on the topic the rising demand for probiotics. Now, moving ahead with our next panel session of the day, an interesting topic on dairy and beverage fortification, challenges and opportunities. Some of the key topics that will be discussed in this session are on effectiveness and fortification in increasing the dairy and beverage nutrition value, food fortification principles to dairy and beverages, issues related to fortification standards and regulatory compliance, and many more. And to discuss on this panel session, I would like to introduce in the order of sequence the panel members. Mr. Suresh Patidar, Senior General Manager, Quality Head, NPD for Heritage Foods. Joining Mr. Patidar, we have Mr. Sebastian Joseph, Head QA from Dodla Dairy. Joining Mr. Joseph, we have Mr. Vivek Arora, Senior Advisor from Tata Trust. Next, we have Mr. Ravi Chandran Raghanathan, CEO from N-Nutrica Dindigul Farm Product Private Limited. Joining Mr. Ravi, we have Ms. Megha Mandke, Lead Technical Marketing, Hexagon Nutrition Private Limited.
Good afternoon.
Now I would like to introduce Mr. Prashant Bhatt, Chief R&D Officer from Mother Dairy.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Bhatt, since you being the panel moderator of this session, I request you to take it ahead.
Sure. Thanks, Devanshi. Good afternoon to all participants, and thanks so much to Synex team, Shailendra, Devanshi, and the whole team for having us in this panel. So this panel has got people from both dairy as well as nutrition background with deep experience in the food industry, and we all will be will be benefited by their experience and sharing of knowledge today. So we are here to discuss about this subject around fortification in milk. So milk being an essential commodity and is a mass consumed product, of it acting as a matrix for the fortification can potentially improve the nutrition status of a very large population, because almost every household buys milk. Milk in itself is a complete food, being very rich in good quality protein, calcium, and other nutrients. So if you use milk as a vehicle for delivering a micronutrient that is currently deficient in India, that can elevate the nutrition status of a large base of consumers. So during the next one hour, 10 minutes, the panel would be discussing around different elements of this milk fortification. So those elements include the regulatory part, what the regulations says, and what are the kind of challenges and opportunities there. Then the panelists also will be talking about principles of fortification, the effectiveness of fortification, as well as the kind of opportunities and challenges and the benefits coming from fortification. So what we have done is we as a group have put together some of the slides that I would ask Devanshi to project. I'll set the context in the initial two slides and then hand it over to the panelists. But before we do that, can I ask each of the panelists to make an introduction about themselves? Can I first start with Vivek? Vivek, please.
Yeah, thank you, Prashant. So basically, I am a dairy technologist and also did my master's in management. And so over the last 25 years, I've been associated with food and dairy industry, and last 10 to 12 years with the supplementary, therapeutic, and nutrition space. So I have seen both the food and nutrition world, and gradually, moved from food to nutrition. And currently, I am working with the Tata Trust and advising them on nutrition projects, mainly fortification.
Yeah.
Over to you, Prashant.
Sure. Thank you, Vivek. Suresh, can you please make an introduction about yourself?
Yes, thank you. Myself, Suresh Patidar. I am BTech and MTech in dairy science and having 26-year rich experience in dairy industry as a food safety new product development expert. Currently serving as a senior general manager and corporate quality head, including new product development at Heritage. Before that, I also served as a senior manager and the quality head in NDDB, Mother Dairy Junagadh. Before that, I was affiliated for 13 years with the Amul Mehsana Union. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Suresh. Joseph, can you please introduce?
Yeah, I'm Sebastian Joseph, heading the quality department of Dodla Dairy Limited, Hyderabad. For the past 12 years, I am with this organization. Before that, I was with the National Dairy Development Board. I am qualified. I am MTech in Dairy and Food Engineering from IIT Kharagpur. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph. Mr. Ravi, can you please introduce?
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ravi. For the past 10 years, I'm with Innotrica, taking care of protein manufacturing by using filtration methods. And I'm taking care of the production and quality of Raj milk and Innotrica. Thank you.
Thank you, Ravi. Megha? You're on mute.
Good afternoon, everyone. Myself, Megha Manke, and I'm a registered dietitian and a certified diabetes educator. I'm working in Hexagon Domestic Premix Department as lead technical marketing. Thank you.
Thank you, Megha. Yeah, so as I said, we would be largely benefited with the experience sharing and knowledge of these experts. Devanshi, can you project the slides, please?
Prashant, you are not introduce yourself.
Okay. Yeah, this is Prashant. I work in Mother Dairy as Chief R&D Officer. I am in the company since last 2 years, taking care of product development, packaging development, and process development, as well as central analytical lab that monitors the quality of our existing products as well as the raw materials. Before working in Mother Dairy, I was in Coke for nearly 11 years. Both worked in India as well as in the global markets based out of Shanghai. I have been heading the R&D lab in India for 6 years and then moved to Shanghai as the global lead for dairy research and development. So their dairy also included plant protein based products. So it was dairy and plant protein. So for nearly 11 years in different leadership positions within Coke. Before Coke, I worked in the flavor industry, two big flavor companies, Firmenich and Givaudan, for 5 years. And before that, I have worked for Heinz in the nutritional products, Complan, Glucon-D, Ferex. And before joining Heinz, I worked in Britannia in biscuits. So most of my experience has been in R&D, and some of it has been in operations and commercialization. Thank you. Yeah, can you move to the next one? This slide talks about the key micronutrient deficiencies as per various studies that government agencies have been doing. So if you look at the kind of deficiency prevalence that we have, there are 5 key micronutrients: iron, B12, and folic, then vitamin A and D, and iodine. So look at the iron part first. The food that we daily have is not enough to deliver the iron requirement. And if you look at the age group of 15 to 49, which is the most productive age group, there is a study by Ministry of Child and Women Welfare. What the study says is between this age group of 15 to 49, nearly 50% of women are deficient in iron. They are anemic. And on the male side, nearly 25% within this age group are deficient in iron. And if you look at the children, 7 out of every 10 child are deficient. So the kind of anemia prevalence due to iron deficiency is very, very alarming and huge. There have been efforts around delivering iron through different vehicles. Wheat flour has been one of them, because wheat flour in most part of India, nearly 300 grams of wheat flour is consumed on a daily basis per person. So it can become a great vehicle. Sorry. It can become a great vehicle in terms of delivering iron as well as other micronutrients like B12 and folic, which are very complementary to the benefits of iron. But the issue is that people, the fortification can happen only in the branded wheat flour, whereas a very large population grind their own wheat flour in chakkis. There are so many small chakkis all over India, so where the fortification cannot happen. So that is the biggest challenge around delivering iron. Now coming to vitamin A and D, the kind of food that is rich in vitamin are very limited in our daily diet. That is the reason the prevalence of vitamin A deficiency is anywhere between 75 to 95%. Though it may not be clinically evident, there are health concerns that can raise due to this deficiency of vitamin A. And vitamin D, as we all know, we have very limited exposure to the sunlight. So production of vitamin D necessarily get impacted. The prevalence of vitamin D deficiency is close to 95% in India. The kind of health concerns this can create and the kind of impact on the productivity within that most productive age group of 15 to 49 is really huge. So it can lead to a health loss as well as the economic loss. So fortifying these micronutrients becomes very important. And India has a great experience around fortifying iodine through salt. So it has been a great success. So the fortification is not new to India. So we started off fortification nearly 50 years ago through Vanaspati, the fortification of Vanaspati with vitamin A and D. After that, table salt with iodine fortification was launched. So we have a history of around 50-55 years in fortification. And recently, there have been more and more vehicles or metrics in terms of delivering these deficient micronutrients. If you look at the opportunity of delivering fortification, as I said earlier, milk is a daily consumed item. The total market for milk and milk products is around 10.5 lakh crores. And India is the largest producer of milk in the world. So we have been a milk scarce country nearly 50 years ago, and Operation Milk Flood made us milk sufficient country. So there has been a significant growth during last many years in the milk production. So currently we produce 189 million metric tons of milk per annum. So this 189 million tons of metric ton is a difficult figure to remember, but on a daily basis, India produces 50 crore liters. So on a population of 1.3 billion people, it comes to a per capita availability of around 400 ml. Though everybody may not have 400 ml of milk, but there is an availability of 400 ml of milk. And if you look at the entire milk pie, nearly 30% of that is still, nearly 70% of that is still unorganized. So it is either sold as loose milk or it gets converted into products like paneer, mithais, etc., which is sold in the unpackaged format. So only 30% is organized. So within this 30% pie, half of that is packaged milk. So previous slide, please. Half of that is packaged milk. So it is around 7 crore liters a day. That means the fortification can help more than 7 crore households, which is equivalent to approximately 25 to 30 crore people. So there is a kind of volume that we are talking about. And vitamin A and D are very much soluble in milk. So milk being a complete food, if you can deliver vitamin A and D, which are the most deficient nutrients, that can significantly elevate the nutrition status of consumers. I'll talk about the vitamin A and D fortification, where Mother Dairy has been pioneer in the end of the presentation. I'll hand over to the panelist in terms of taking us through the different elements of food fortification. So may I request Joseph to explain us through the principles of food fortification in dairy and dairy products. Can you move to the next slide, please?
Yeah, good afternoon to all. I hope everybody is well. Next slide, please. I'll be covering this on principles of food fortification, milk and milk beverages. So fortification, as everybody knows, is deliberately increasing the content of micronutrients in a food to improve nutritional quality aiming at public health. As Prashant has already explained, there is a huge scope of huge opportunity for fortification. Micronutrients are essentially the dietary nutrients, including vitamins, minerals, which is required in minute quantities. Whereas it definitely helps in well-being, and the deficiency of these micronutrients lead to many diseases. For example, deficiency of vitamin A leads to night blindness, and deficiency of vitamin D leads to improper growth of bones and rickets, and also metabolism. In this pandemic, I was just reading, in case of vitamin D deficiency, it leads to diseases which is affecting your health and your lungs, and the chances of pneumonia is 63% more when your blood level of vitamin D comes down below 20 nanomoles. And fortificant is a substance added to food to provide micronutrients. Next slide, please. See, there are 6 guiding principles for food fortification. Any fortification should not adversely affect the odor, texture, taste, or appearance of the food. For example, in case of rice fortification, one of the main thing about it is it changes the color. So many people don't prefer that. And nutrients should be absorbed by the body, resulting in an increase in bioavailability. Whatever you are putting in, body should absorb that. Many times, some of these are not getting absorbed because it is artificial and it is not plant-based. There should be a demonstrable positive effect on consumers' health of adding the nutrients. When we add it, as I said, vitamin D, when you add it, if the blood level of vitamin D increases, it enhances the immunity. Main purpose is to correct the deficiency or improve micronutrients of general public, or it could be a targeted population. It could be a targeted town, it should be a targeted group of people. Next slide, please. And the food fortification to be made mandatory only based on extensive study. Now what happens is, this is what is missing in most of our publication. We generally go as per what US is giving, and then that is the standard what we follow. Definitely there has been study by ICMR and other people to find out what is the level of deficiency. 2012, they had a study on vitamin A and vitamin D deficiency. Like Prashant has explained, more than 80% of the population is deficient of vitamin D. And similar is the case with vitamin A. And vitamin A and D fortification is not new. It all started by dairy industry in 1932. Vitamin A fortification, whereas in case of vitamin D, it started in 1940. but because of some mysterious reasons, it was done away with later on. Now it is good that FSSAI has come out with some standard, and voluntary people have started doing that. And fortified food shall provide 15 to 30% Indian adult RDA. If too much of a fortification also lead to toxicity, like if your vitamin D intake is more than 100 micrograms per day, it can lead to toxicity. Next slide, please. So this is the recommended dietary allowances. What was recommended by ICMR. For infants, it is 350, and for children, it varies from 400 to 600. For lactating women, it is 950. Whereas in case of vitamin D, 10 microgram per day, it is almost the same for all the infants, and for the children and adult together, it is 15. That is what recommended by US Food and Nutrition Board, whereas recently FSSAI has come out with a standard saying that it is 10 for Indian population. Next slide, please. Milk fortification, coming to milk fortification, it is nothing but addition of vitamin A and vitamin D. Whereas other minerals, through other vehicles, we are, for example, in case of salt, iodine is added in salt. Since milk is consumed by all the population, so this deficiency of vitamin D and A has been thought about by government and FSSAI so that to compensate the vitamin deficiency in mass population. And need for fortification. Indian population has already, Prashant has told that, I'm not going to cover that. When fat is removed from full fat milk, milk contains about 4.2 to, it depends on the breed of the animal. For a cow, it is something like 4.2 to 4.5, whereas in case of buffalo, it is 6% and more. When milk is processed and produced as tone milk, part of the fat is removed. And a double tone milk, it contains only 1.5% fat, whereas vitamin A and vitamin D, they are fat solubles. When this fat is removed, naturally vitamin A and vitamin D getting depleted. And fortification milk thus helps to top up these vitamins. Next slide, please. So coming to dairy beverage fortification, it is not so much common in India. A beverage could be classified into three. That is, beverage made with fortified milk, also can be called as beverage, fortified beverage. For example, you are fortifying the milk and you are making the curd with that. It can be called as fortified curd. And fortification added on making the beverage separately. And beverage fortification with mineral salts like calcium, gluconate, etc. And some examples of dairy beverage is flavored milk. In India, we not started any fortification in flavored milk. In acidified dairy drink, for example, Yakult, it is being added with vitamin A and vitamin B. Dairy drink alternatives are, of course, there. Whey drinks and fruit-based beverages. I would hand over to Mr. Suresh Patidar.
Yeah, thank you, Joseph, for taking us through the principles of fortification. As you rightly said, fortification becomes successful when you add it into a mass consumed and widely consumed product. Only thing is that it should not lead to any kind of change in the taste or color, etc. Then it becomes very successful because the food pattern doesn't change. Thanks for explaining the benefit of vitamin D also. And then we'll take up the questions at the end of the session. Thank you. Suresh, if you can take us through the improvement of nutrition through fortification part.
Sure. Namaste to all. And Thank you very much, SciNex and India Food Nutrition Summit, and especially Devanshi and Selen for giving this opportunity. And also feel very proud and glad to be a part of this great panel. As you know, food fortification principle have already well explained by Mr. Joseph Michael Ali. So I will not repeat it. Next slide, please. Devanshi, yes. Before this food fortification process, I would like to talk on the improving nutritional quality through fortification. What topic is assigned by moderator? That is a very good topic, and let me talk on this very simple concept of the food supplementation. You might be all knowing that there is a very popular and well recognized supplement pyramid is there, which is including the 5 pillars. So in that 5 pillars, this macronutrient is there, micronutrient is there. In macro and micronutrient, that is called the nutritional supplements, and that is correct the nutrition deficiency as per the daily requirement or nutritional requirement of the specific persons. Apart from this, there is another pillar, that anti-catabolic, that is also called anti-stress, which includes the antioxidant, amino acids, and for the gut health. Then another it is there the ergogenic pillars, that is the power generating, especially for the sport persons. That is creatinine and arginine, CLA, conjugated linoleic acids are there, green coffee beans are there to cover this fortification. And last but very least pillar is there, thermogenic pillar. That is called the fat burners, especially for caffeine and energy drinks include that. Among this food supplement pillar, that major 90% portion is covered by the micronutrient and macronutrients. Now I will come on the milk. You all know that milk is already explained very well by our moderator, Mr. Prashant, that milk is a most complete food in the world, gifted by God to us, which have all most of these macronutrients, which is covered that fat, protein, carbohydrate, and in that also very quality protein. That includes the milk protein casein, that is called casein. That whey protein is also there, and certain amino acids are there, which is very essential for our body functioning, and some immunoglobulins are also there, that already covered. Under micronutrients, milk already have certain vitamin A and D, but as Joseph ji told that during fat separation and to provide the less fat variant, or due to fat conscious, it is removed, or it may got lost during the pasteurization and other multiple processes. So that need to be again replacement or replace it by fortification. And again, milk is known as a most complete food, and people are over the globe, and it is rich source of the high quality, all the key ingredients, what I explained, including calcium, minerals, trace elements also, apart from the vitamin A and D. So as per FARC, Food Fortification Research Source Center and FSSI guideline, there is a 5 key food staples: rice, flour, milk, oil, and salt. What already explained by the Prashant ji in their earlier presentation. Among that, rice or flour are only iron and certain different vitamin, and rice is mostly popular in the North India, and this flour, wheat flour, is popular in the North India. It is both are not common and unique. Let us talk oil, which is also being fortified with vitamin A and D. But as per the campaign of the food safety, Eat Right India, there is a concept of the eat less oil, less salt, and less sugar. So people which is our cardiac region or any other region avoiding the oil totally. So from that source, we are not able to provide this supplement. Now only the option of the food staple left is the milk, which is widely used, most popular, and all population group have consumed by all the group, from the small kids to the young and aged persons, and it is a part of their daily diet, either direct milk, coffee, tea, or any other sweets are called anyway. So this is a very popular supplement now. So this is a right strategy to supplement vitamin A and D, 45 vitamin A and D in the milk to overcome from these deficiency. So next slide, please. Right. Now previous slide, please come on. Now I will come on the process of the milk fortification. It is very common and very simple. There is no need for any special equipment. Just we have to take the chilled raw milk, then pasteurize it, and there is a option milk with during pasteurization also we can add the vitamin A and D. And if pasteurizer is engaged for the common processing for suppose for other milk and milk curd processing purpose also, or other sweet processing purpose also, or SMP powder production also, then there is a choice that they can add in a standardized milk silo. But at that time, we need a very, very hygienic care with milk to be added in the silo, standardized silo of any standardized milk, and bulk agitation and packing is there. Next, please. There is a simplest SOP here for the milk fortification. In that, this we have to have the good general information about the what vitamins and the premix we are going to, which company, whether they have provided the proper composition as per the guideline of the food safety authority, and there should be a food grade and food analysis certificate should be supported with that one, and it should be user friendly. Earlier it was coming in the 1 kg premix, now it is coming in the 100 gram, which is sufficient for 5,000 liter silo fortification, and it can be added easily. If we talk about the premix fortification process, in a standardized milk storage tank, then QA cleared by final batch silo agitator must be on, and based on the calculated, if it is exact 5,000, we can directly add the 100 gram premix bottle, which is sufficient to fortify as per the FSSAI guideline. And during that, we have to take very much precautions. There should be a authentic record where this operator and this quality assistant should sign it jointly. And in our heritage case, we are also monitoring it by the closed circuit cameras, whether it is added in a right tank, right time, and the agitator is going on well or not. And all other hygienic care, that milk should be taken in a sterilized SS can, and it should be plunged properly after adding, and aseptically it should be added into the silo, then mix for 20 to 30 minutes, and then pack it into the designated packing material. Next, please. Actually, this is the lactobin is pristine is just we are right now we are using. Before that, we are also worked closely with the SA Pharma, Hexagon, and this other DMS is there. Before that, this Nicholas Pyramid is there. We worked closely with them to review and revise the formulation as per the revised guideline of that, and all are able to give the as per the guideline. Now we have the choice, we can go anyone with them, and there is a very simple calculation here that vitamin A, the standard is 270 to 450 microgram per liter. If we add this in a 50,000 liter, that will come 120 IU to 100 ml, and similarly vitamin D also will become 26 IU as per the guideline. And this is a sufficient dose, and this threshold limit or toxic limit is very, very high. It is 1,000 times higher than that. There is no need to worry about the overdosage. That will be covered by the next panelist, I think. Next, please. Now I will come on the heritage initiative for the milk fortification and its importance. Heritage has taken an active and aggressive participation during the Swachh Bharat, Swasth Bharat Yatra, Eat Right India and Food Fortification campaign with coordination of KHPT, GAIN and Tata Trust. We are the first South-based company who took this challenge as an opportunity and initiated milk fortification with the help of KHPT in 2017 itself. And our Uppal Hyderabad manufacturing unit is recognized by the GAIN and FSSI as a fortification training center, where we have conducted practical training to provide training to the dairy technocrats to encourage the fortification in the Telangana region. We have started initially in 2017 as per the FSSI guideline and fortifying vitamin A and D initially for the double toned milk and skimmed milk. But now from 1st April onwards, we have started fortification including the full cream milk, cow milk and standard milk. And now we can proudly say that we are fortifying almost all milk variant and supplying 9.5 lakh liter plus F symbol fortified milk to the Pan India through our 11 catering states. And now we are spending almost 70 lakh per annum without additional charging to the customer. And we have got very good response and positive feedback from the majority of consumers also for this fortification. And looking to the pandemic, this is also very specific to fortify the vitamin A and especially vitamin D. Next slide, please. This is the variant, almost all variant we are fortifying right now and supplying in the market with the plus F symbol. Next, please. Here are certain key benefits of the 5 science-based backed benefits of vitamin A are there. Preserve eyesight, help the immune system function, support our organ functions, derivatives, treat acne, helps a healthy pregnancy. And this surprise benefits of vitamin D supplements are there, promoting health, bones and teeth growth, supporting immune, brain and nervous system health, regulating insulin level and supporting diabetes management, supporting lung function and cardiovascular health. So this is very, very important in the pandemic here to fight against the COVID-19. Next slide, please. It is over from my side, and thank you for this opportunity. Now over to Prasanji for other panelists.
Thanks Suresh for sharing your experience around the effectiveness of fortification, as well as you made very important points around how this can be operationalized. Right. So as they go in very small quantities in milk, the distribution of vitamin A and D throughout the tank that you use for manufacturing would be very important. So that we ensure the right distribution in the finished product.
Correct.
Also the cost of this fortification is very, very low. It is less than 5 paisa a liter. So if the entire dairy industry does this, then a huge mass of population can benefit out of this. Thanks for sharing the operational details. Thank you. Can I just now move to the next element of fortification, which is about how do we improve the nutrition quality through fortification. We have Megha from Hexagon with us. This company comes with a deep background in nutrition, and they are the company where you can source the vitamin and mineral premixes. Megha, you would like to take us through the slides?
Yes. Thank you, sir. Good afternoon to all the delegates and the dignitaries at the event. Thank you for inviting us for the panel discussion with all the senior panelists on board. As we already know that milk is a good source for men's dietary need, not only in terms of macronutrients, but also in terms of micronutrients. Like, before we start with the actual topic, let me take you through the numbers. As Prashant sir already mentioned that India is the largest producer of milk in the world, there has been a rapid rise in the aggregate availability of milk from 178 grams per day in 1990 to 1991 to 394 grams in 2018-19. This is according to the NDDP data. About 25 milk federation companies, producers or unions in 20 states are fortifying approximately 50 lakhs liters of milk per day. Okay, and that's huge. The fortification is operated by a proper standard operating procedure laid down by FSSAI, as Suresh sir also mentioned, laid down by FSSAI and also supported by other developmental partners. Now, apart from this, when you talk about fortification, apart from this, we should not forget that India also has a very high burden of micronutrient deficiency, that is deficiencies of vitamins and minerals, okay, which contribute significantly towards the global burden of the disease. Now, in India, the most important micronutrient, of public health significance are vitamin A, vitamin D, iron, and iodine. As Prashant sir also mentioned, out of these, vitamin A, iron, and iodine is reported to be the second largest risk factor in the global burden of disease. When we talk about vitamin A deficiency, preschool children are are always deficient when you talk about India compared to the other neighboring countries. According to the National Nutrition Monitoring Bureau, along with NIN, when they reported and surveyed, approximately 92% of the population are vitamin A deficient in the preschool children's. Okay, and as Prashant sir also mentioned, there are no signs of vitamin A deficient. There is no particular biter spot, but still they are deficient. That is a significant health concern, and therefore it is considered to be the public health concern for India. So by and large, if you see about the prevalence of vitamin A deficiency, India has a slight improvement, and that's all because of the national prophylaxis program that was carried out in terms of vitamin A. I'm talking about. But when we talk about vitamin D deficiency, there are no such national programs, and the only excellent source, natural source that you get is sunlight. Right, but still 70 to 80%, or more than 80%, in fact, are vitamin D deficient. Now the population would include the adults and the young children as well. Okay, now both these deficiencies has become so prevalent that government has to take some initiative, and government has taken initiative such as fortification of vitamin A and D in milk. Okay, which approximately provides one third of the individual's recommended dietary intake. Now we know the consequences of the deficiency of these vitamins, so I'm not going to touch upon that. So Devanshi, can you move on to next slide, please? Yeah, so it's very important to focus on the importance of food fortification, and here I would like to emphasize, I cannot emphasize more, because fortification only bridges the gap between the need and the actual consumption of micronutrients. Okay, now food fortification, it's a complementary strategy, is nothing to do with the diversified diet and the balanced diet. That's obviously good, but this is a complementary strategy. Okay, so when we move on to the first point, that is milk is an excellent vehicle, and obviously milk is an excellent vehicle. Also mentioned previously that India is the largest producer of milk, and we all consume milk on daily basis. Not just you and me; it's all the age groups that consume milk. So milk is a good carrier for fortification because it's fortified again with the fat soluble vitamins like vitamin A and D. Vitamin A, which promotes and aids absorption of calcium in the milk. Calcium also has other enhancers like lactose and all, but vitamin D would give a good absorption if you fortify it in the milk. Then moving on to the second point, milk fortification is proven safe, effective. Yes, so it's obviously safe, effective, and cost effective because it costs less than 2 paisa per liter of milk. Okay, so dairy industry is actually equipped to fortify milk and does not require any extra equipment or expenditure. Okay, so of the total annual milk production, 9% is fortifiable, and I think it's a much achievable target. Moving on to the next point, preventive population wide approach that impacts the entire population without any change in the behavior, and that's obvious. There is a safety as in low daily doses because it contributes only to 25% to 30% of the recommended dietary intake. Now, yesterday there was a panel on food fortification, and Jagmeet ma'am, I really second her because she said that FSSA has come up with new panel, okay, and they are reevaluating the number in terms of estimating average requirement, recommended dietary allowance, and tolerable upper limit. Okay, so government is thinking and taking step in a wider perspective. When we talk about vitamin A and D, the form that is used is cold water soluble. Why it is used? Because it's easily homogenized and miscible in the milk. And micronutrient premixes is readily available, and manufactured by India. Organization like Hexagon Nutrition will provide quality premix, which is best in the industry. I am just being local to, the local stuff, and we can procure, premixes from India as well. Next, yes, Suresh sir also mentioned this. Dairies do not have to incur additional cost because there's no additional cost. It's safe. There's no additional equipment required. There's no additional, investment in this. So most of the cooperatives and private dairies are fortifying milk. So this is the best way we can contribute it into. As mentioned, milk fortification provide consistent dietary a delivery of micronutrients has maximum benefit and rapid impact. Can you move on to the next slide, please? Yeah, so when talking about impact, it's very necessary to show what kind of impact is being, studied. So this is two short studies. Just I would like to elaborate. It was spoken yesterday also, but I would like to elaborate a bit. Now, the first study was done on Delhi school-going children to see the effect of vitamin D fortification in milk. Okay, there were three groups. It's a randomized study. There are three groups. Group A received unfortified milk, 200 ml of unfortified milk. Group B received approximately 200 ml of milk with vitamin D, 600 IU, and Group C received 200 ml of milk with 1000 IU of vitamin D. And this was carried out for 12 weeks. And obviously other biochemical parameters like calcium, phosphate, alkaline phosphate, vitamin calcium, all these was taken into consideration post the study as well. The result shows that fortification of milk is safe and effective strategy to deal with widespread vitamin D deficiency, right? And when we talk about CNSS study as well, when we compare it with NFHS4 data, Rajasthan has been fortifying edible oil and milk since 2012, and Rajasthan has seen significant impact. Okay, so it may have brought the levels of vitamin A deficiency down because of the fortification. And furthermore, when you talk about COVID scenario, you don't know when it's going to end. When we talk about these micronutrients and specifically vitamin A and D, these are immune boosters. And what we need during this unprecedented time is to improve our immunity. And hence, fortification of A and D should be adapted voluntary. That's what I feel. Okay, so we are the people to create awareness. Once we come forward and educate people, I think that's a much better way, because good sense and good health are the life's greatest blessing. So we all have to make sure all have to take better choices for ourselves and at least for our loved ones. Can you move on to the next slide, please, Nilanshi? Yeah, so this is, again to emphasize on Make in India, because Make in India initiative is a national program of Government of India designed for the development of our country. And the premixes that you buy from Hexagon Nutrition are made in India but sold across the world. Okay, so let's pledge to make the Bharat Atmanirbhar. It is not that, it's not only I saying this, but I hope all the panelists would agree. Yeah, thank you so much. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Megha, for this beautiful presentation. In fact, the clinical data that you have shown on how the nutrition profile can be improved by fortification, it is very effective. And also the emphasis on Make in India. So we all strive towards becoming more and more Atmanirbhar, and we should keep doing that. Thanks for sharing your experience. Now we'll move to the regulatory part, the kind of opportunities and challenges that we have around fortification. So we have Vivek from Tata Trust who would like to share his experience on this. Vivek, please.
Thank you, Prashant. Whatever we talked, the opportunities, the way it is being presented, everything needs a direction. And I believe that regulation, around fortification is providing a certain direction to the whole process. And let's see what are the challenges there and what happens and how it happens. Next slide, please. So currently we have regulation for staple, which is milk as in liquid milk fortification. And as mentioned by Mr. Patidar, they are now fortifying all variants. So earlier, only the toned, double toned, skimmed, and standardized milk could be fortified because, as Mr. Joseph also explained, with the fat, the vitamins go away. And that was the idea. But over the period, with feedback from the field, it was also realized that this is the need of the hour, and milk can carry the micronutrients, and full cream milk also can be fortified. And so there is a gazette that all species of milk can be fortified. Now, when we talk about the staple milk fortification, the standards are given there. So the standard is, 900 to 1500 IU per liter of milk. This is for the packaged milk in any form, and 200 to 300 IU for vitamin D. Now, when we talk of beverages, currently there is a draft notification which talks about processed food fortification. It also says that wherever staple is being used, it can be considered as fortified. So dairy based beverages, definitely, if they are prepared from this fortified milk, will be able to carry forward the benefits of fortification. But we will understand as to what challenges we may face, if we go ahead and do it. I would also say that, staple food fortification, FSSAI launched the standards in 2016, and it is continuously being reviewed by the scientific panel. As Megha mentioned that, Dr. Jagmeet Madan, speaking about the review. So every 4 or 5 years, it is important to take a stock to what is happening, how we can improve, how we can evolve with the standards. Next slide, please. So if you look at the consumption, everybody talked about the per capita availability of 400 ml, but as per NNMB, the per capita consumption does not go beyond 150 ml of milk. So whatever we say the availability, most of it goes for making either products. So liquid, as in liquid milk, getting consumed is as low as 60 ml to 70 ml in some parts of the country, and up to 100, 150 ml. So if we take, 150 ml, then what do we get naturally? How much do we fortify as per the current standards? And what do we get from the fortified milk? So if you look at the fortified milk, if you consume 150 ml, you're able to get 17 to 21% of your RDA in total from natural as well as fortified. In the sense, what is available naturally in the milk plus what you've added. If you look at D, then if you consume 150 ml of D, you only get 9 to 13% of your RDA requirement. Now, this is low. The question will come as to why only 9 to 13% of the RDA, because there is another staple which is oil, which also provides vitamin A and D. And the scientific panel has been conservative in defining the standards so that when we consume both the staples, still we are consuming a certain part of our RDA. Now, Mr. Joseph also took up, the issue of toxicity. So I would like to bring out that there are tolerable limit. What is a tolerable limit? Tolerable is when you consume these quantities day in, day out for a certain period, still you will not get toxicity. So toxicity is many, many times higher than the tolerable limits. So if you look at the tolerable limits for vitamin A, for children less than 10 years, it is 2600 IU to 5000 IU. If you look at, for adults, which is more than 10 years, it is 6000 IU to 10,000 IU, which is almost 4 to 5 times your RDA is the tolerable limit. And the toxicity is, literally out of question at this point of time. If you look at vitamin D, 0 to 10 years, it's 1000 IU, which is a tolerable limit for children below 10 years, and it's 2000 IU for children, above 10 years and adults. So when we talk about fortification, I would say that toxicity is something very distant, but it always, when we talk about vitamins, it comes up for discussion. But the scientific panel, which is having eminent people from ICMR, NIN, they sit down, they see what is the consumption pattern, and then only the standards get approved. So that is why the regulations need to be in place so that a certain direction is provided to the whole initiative. Next slide, please. So how do we, go about with this regulation? So at FSSAI, there is this FLRS system, which is the licensing, food licensing system, online system. There you can log in with your current login ID, and you can go in for endorsement. So next slide, please. If you go in for food fortification endorsement, then you will be allowed to use this +F logo on your packages. So you have to provide very, very simple details are required here about your plant and all. And then you get this endorsement. You're able to use this +F logo on your package after you receive your endorsement. Please. So once you get the endorsement on a package, you see on the right hand side of the brand, there is this +F logo, which you can prominently display on the packages, informing that this product is fortified. Also on the right hand side, there is a panel for nutritional content. So you need to change this nutritional panel as per the added vitamin A and D. Also, you need to mention this in the ingredient. So there are these 2-3 changes that happen on the package. Once you endorse the product, then you change the package accordingly, and then you're meeting the labeling and packaging requirement as per FSSAI. Next slide, please. So what are the challenges around this? Now, we talked about this toned milk, full cream milk getting fortified. We talked also about pouch milk. Then there are certain processes, UHT process, pasteurization process. When we go into beverages, it is the curdling, the fermentation process. So it is not studied that how it will alter the amount of vitamins in the product. So there is a constant challenge that is available with the dairy, that when you are defining your premix, you need to calculate the overages as per the process that you follow. So this is one. So one standard cannot fit all, but there needs to be a generalized standard to keep it in range. There needs to be a generalized standard. So as far as staple milk fortification is concerned, which is the next challenge, we are working on a standardized premix standard for it to be used across all the variants to begin with. Now, why this is required? Because when I say the range is 900 to 1500 IU. Now you can calculate basis 900 also. You can calculate basis 1500 also. So there is a leverage of say almost 600 IUs available, and which will definitely alter the calculations of premix. So normally, how do we do it in the industry, which they provide the therapeutic and supplementary foods? We normally take the mean. So if it is 9 to say 1500, then you would settle somewhere around 1200. You will target. You have a targeted uh, uh, vitamin A or D standard. So your targets would be the mean of the range that is given. Also, it depends how much the losses happen during the process, or post production losses, like in the supply chain, when it gets exposed to sunlight or when it gets exposed to light or heat. So you need to calculate the averages and then define the standards. So if there is a defined standard available, then it is easy for the industry to use, and they will be able to meet the FSSAI standard. So that's the second challenge. The third one is the testing of the product at the site. So currently, for determining vitamin A and D, you need sophisticated equipment like HPLC or LCMS, and not every dairy or a small dairy would have it. Prashant would agree with me that Mother Dairy is able to do it on site. But still, if even if they are having this equipment and they're able to do it on site, it takes 24 hours to 36 hours for the results to come. Now, milk is a perishable item, and by the time the results will come, the product is already out in the market. So there is a need for a ready kit, which is a easy and faster detection, where you can just check the milk before it goes out of the factory. So there are certain companies that are working in this direction. We also worked with them to see that how that can be used. There are certain challenges currently associated with using those kits, and we are working to resolve those challenges with the manufacturers to see that a easy detection can happen at the industry level.
Vivek,
Next slide.
Vivek, we have another say 3-4 minutes left. Is it okay to finish it earlier?
Yeah, I think I am done. The next slide.
Okay. You are done?
Next slide, please.
Sure.
So this is the last thing. The opportunity is already discussed. So basically, the people are moving to dairy-based beverages from the carbonated beverages, and you have, this sector is growing at the rate of 25%. So there is an opportunity for all these beverages to get fortified, and the benefits to reach the consumer. That's all from my side. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Vivek, for sharing the regulatory perspective. So I'll directly move to Mr. Ravi now, who would take us through the challenges and the opportunities in fortification, and then move to the question and answer session.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Prashant Bhatt. And good afternoon. Thanks to the organizers, sponsors, the panel members of India Food and Nutrition Summit. Yeah, I'm very well support the idea of fortification, and I agree to the Mr. Prashant Bhatt's saying that almost 30% of organized milk industry has to go into fortification. The remaining 70% is still taken by the unorganized sector. So my point is, when I look at the market and when I go through the customers' thinking, how they take it, most of the media doesn't report what we speak in this forum. They take the social influencers, other health-based reporters a lot, and then they move into the decisions which they consider are the best. If you see in our families, in our friends' families, there is a strong evidence that people are moving towards fresh and unprocessed foods. And also, healthy food means a different item to each and everyone. Normally, most of the people now they wanted to minimize fat, salt, and sugar and non-natural elements such as preservatives, and that is where the fortification also comes in. So, if you see in this examples listed here, due to this negative marketing, I'm not saying that. It is not possible to market it in a positive way. But what I'm trying to convey is 1 + 1 is equal to 2, and we all know that as technical people. But 1 + 1 is equal to 3 gets more popularity, and many people are starting to hear and follow a lot of the things from them. So that has made these changes occur in the past history. If you take the past in 1950s and 1960s, when the iodized salt was introduced, there was the only media, the newspaper, which reported it from the proper technical sources. But now, as the media influencers and other people are making their own videos, it is becoming hard to make the people understand that what technocrats think are right. So you can see this movement normally in the iodized salt, they're going towards the rock salt and crude salt. Before we used to have, even now, all the organized sector has standardized milk. I mean to say, the double tone milk, the tone milk, whatever has been given by the FSSAI, we follow that. But most of the people now are tending to take the milk which has the statement, nothing is added, nothing is removed. So this is getting popular nowadays. How we are going to influence them is the next big question. The main problem which comes to this is low efficiency of the food. If you take the case of broiler chicken, they are moving slowly towards the country fowl. So, and similarly, instead of hybrid and efficient vegetables, they're moving towards the legacy vegetables. Not saying the movement is huge, but it is picking up pace. The picking up pace is very dangerous, and it has to be checked right now. That is my major point. And also, we as a government, when we compare to the operations that takes place in Europe or USA, the media, the government doesn't have control over the media here in India. The news channels, also the social bloggers, the health-based websites, the doctors, the research papers, everything are going into the unprocessed and naturally occurring form. So the media, especially current affairs programs, have a strong effect on perception of the customer's choice. So maybe the government should put a certain level of pressure to make what should be published, and is the published thing technically correct? That should be done, I believe. Next slide, please.
Ravi, we have 1 more minute if you can cover. Thank you.
Yes, I will do that. So the first point is educating the customers. Second point is due to different people working in different lifestyles. If you consider the Western nations, most of them are employees and they are working in an internal environment. But here in India, we depend upon a lot of businesses who are very much exposed to the sunlight. So if you see, the only 60% are deficient, and 20 + 20, 40% are sufficient or insufficient. Okay, they are in the border category. Why should we push to a staple food like milk and make it mandatory? Why can't it be optional or in a particular variant alone? That is the question. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yeah. So if fortification is implemented, how will we make the small players follow? If we test it to that minute level, what will be the testing cost? For example, right now, during the last session of the India Food and Nutrition Summit, we made some changes on the antibiotics and heavy metal residue in the milk. So now we are testing, even if we give one batch for FCM, all 4 variants, we have to test all 4 variants separately. This makes a lot of processing difficulties in the industry. So, and coming back to these left side pictures, it clearly says that nowadays the milk industry, a few small players are coming and taking away a major part of the organized sector into the unorganized sector, claiming that nothing is added, nothing is removed. So there should be a strong movement or a strong education system to support fortification. Next slide, please. The common man's view is, why can't food be separate from fortification? Why can't food be food and medicine be medicine? Why don't we take it as a supplement? Those who know about this micronutrients deficiency, maybe they can go into taking supplements, right? So that is my point. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Ravi, for your perspective on the challenges and opportunities. I think there are quite a few questions that have come up on the chat, and maybe we can take 2-3 of them if time permits. One is from Ashok. The question is, what should be the overage for vitamin A and D in UHT treated milk? Maybe Megha or say Vivek can answer this.
Megha,
Hello.
you want me to go?
Yeah, anything is fine. Please, sir.
Yeah. So, see, normally what we've observed is that both in case of packaged milk to UHT milk, the package means poly milk and UHT milk, there is a loss of about 15 to 20%. So it varies. So 15 to 20% loss is there. And so while calculating the overages, we normally add about 20% there, plus they add the processing for when they are manufacturing premix, so that production loss is added. And also when you keep your targets to the mean, you are able to stay within the range. So just to give you an example, that if I take vitamin A, and for vitamin A, if it's 900 to 1500 IU and the target is 1200, then you add say around 1350 to 1400 IU. And what we've observed that whenever we've checked, we've been around in between 1050 to 1100 IU, which is quite a safe limit to be in. So that's what my experience is. I hope I am able to answer your query.
Sure. Thanks, Vivek. Another question is from Jasu Patel. His question is to Suresh. What he says is, if losses are occurring in vitamin A and D only through separation, what is the need for fortifying full cream milk? Suresh, you want to take this?
Yeah, I think I can take that. See, that was the misconception that we are losing vitamins in fat, and that is why it should be fortified. It is not that. Across India, I have traveled all these 26, 27 states, and we've checked the unfortified milk. I have hardly found any D in the milk. There is hardly any D in that milk. And what we need, and if you look at my slides, even when you fortify, you're only getting 10 to 12% of your RDA. So if you're not fortifying, you are not getting the vitamin. Now, as far as A is concerned, A definitely you're getting from milk. Definitely A is something which you lose with the fat as far as milk is concerned. But still that does not justify the case for full cream not to be fortified, because even when you fortify, it is say 19 to 20% of your RDA when you're consuming 150 ml of milk. Now, if you look across, that consumption of milk is not there, and you don't consume, you don't have many sources for those vitamins to be available. Also, day in and day out, you don't consume those sources. I would say sweet potato is a very good source of vitamin A. But how many of us eat sweet potato every day? No one. So your diet should be able to, provide you with everything, but it is a conscious effort, and not everyone is able to make it. Also, the people who know cannot do it on day in, day out basis. So it is important that such staples that we are consuming on day in, day out are providing this required source of micronutrients.
I would to add one.
Yeah. Thanks.
Hello.
Thanks, Vivek.
Prashant ji.
Devanshi, we have more time or should we wrap up?
No, actually, we are a bit over time, so we need to wrap up this session. Thank you so much for all the panel members for joining in and for your wonderful insights. Also, let me tell you that we got a great response from the audience. There were a lot of questions that we received. But due to the time constraint, we won't be able to take it right now, but I will be sharing it across with you and you can definitely answer them. And also, let me tell you that we had 1,500 plus participants live watching this panel session. So we got a very great response from the participants and it was a wonderful presentation from all the panelists. Thank you so much for joining in.
Yeah,
Yes,
thanks.
Thank you. Thank you
Thanks
so
a lot.